So, good evening, everyone watching the video. So, actually, the class was scheduled today. So, I did not. I was intending not to take the class today because one student had other tuition today. So, as the tuition was cancelled, so I am intending to take the class. So, yesterday we stopped from. We will continue today from the portion we have stopped. So, let me share my screen first. Okay. Okay, Shovi, can you see the screen? Okay, okay. So yesterday we have stopped by knowing the respiratory volumes. So first of all, I want to ask from Shobik that the assignment that I have given, from there, any doubts in any questions? Any doubts? You can say me. Any questions? Okay, can you repeat what you said? It's just cracking. Okay. So each and every questions you saw and you can solve it, right? Okay. So let us continue from there where we have stopped. Now we will, as I've said you, that in today's class we will learn about exchange of gases, transportation of gases, and some disorders of respiratory system. And our chapter will come to an end. First of all, we will know exchange of gases. Now, as I have said you, the exchange of gases mainly takes place in alveoli. Now, how it takes place? See, here it's written alveoli are the primary sites of exchange of gases. Exchange of gases also occur between blood and tissues. As you know, that RBC contains oxygen and it transports that oxygen to different tissues of our body. So that is also a kind of a exchange of gas, exchange of oxygen. Now, uh, occurs between blood and tissues, oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged in these sites by simple diffusion, mainly based on pressure or concentration gradient. Solubility of the gases as well as the thickness of the membranes involved in diffusion are also some important factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. Now, the uh, the reagent, or you can see the say the medium by which there is a exchange of gases. For example, if you consider exchange of gases between your exchange of gases between blood and tissues, the medium of, okay, so we got disconnected. Let me see once. Fine. Okay, what happened to him? Let me see once. Okay, Shovik, can you listen me? Shovik, can you listen me? Hello, hello, I can't listen you, Shovik. Shovik, I can't listen you really. It's fully muted. Oh, again he got disconnected. What's the problem? Hello, Shovik. Again, he got disconnected. What's the problem? I can't understand. Me check again. Hello, Shovik. Hello. Hello. Again, he got disconnected. Hello, Shovik. Can you listen me? Shovik, I can't listen you really. I can't listen you. You are inaudible. Totally. Shovik, you are inaudible. I can't listen you. You text me. You text me. You message me. Shovik, you'll message me here. I will see. Because you are inaudible. I can't listen you. Okay. Then how it will be in an interactive class? I can't listen you. I have to see the messages then. Shovik, do one thing. Do one thing. You go back. Okay, you go back. You means you join again. You go back and join again. From first, you join. Okay. Shovik, can you listen me? I cannot hear you, Shovik. You are inaudible totally. Okay, then let me continue. You just talk with me via this message. Okay, you text me here because I can't listen you. Okay, let me continue. You just text me. Yes. Okay, then again I have to share my screen. Oh, 20 minutes. 15 minutes is gone only. Okay, no problem. We will try to complete it fast. Okay, okay. Okay, then. As I was saying, that exchange of gases. Okay, the let me continue from that part where I stopped. So it depends. The exchange of gases also depends the medium by which the exchange is taking place. Now, for example, the exchange of gases is taking place between blood and alveoli. The medium via which exchange is taking place is the layer, or the, you can say, the membrane of the tissue, or you can say there is a exchange of gases between blood and a tissue. Don't consider alveoli, consider exchange of gases between blood and tissue. Now what's the medium of exchange of gases? The layer, the you can say the membrane of the tissue. Okay, so if the membrane of the tissue gets, you can say it's irregular, or you can say it's damaged in certain cases, then exchange of gases will be hampered. So by this, what we can understand, that exchange of gases depends upon the medium via which it takes place. Fine. Now, pressure contributed by an individual gas in a mixture of gases is called partial pressure. Now, this thing is very important. Pressure contributed by the individual gas in a mixture is called partial pressure, and represented by PO2 for oxygen, and PO2 for oxygen, and PCO2 for carbon dioxide. Okay, now what is partial pressure? Suppose you consider a mixture of gases. The pressure exerted, okay, or you can say a mixture of gases in a consider a mixture of gases in a container. Now the pressure of a particular gas which is exerted on the container, the pressure exerted the pressure exerted by that particular gas, individual gas, on the container is known as partial pressure of that specific gas. Okay, this is very important. A definition can come from this part. What is partial pressure? Now, this partial pressure is also responsible for exchange of gases. See, partial pressure of these two gases in the atmosphere, air, and the two sides of diffusion are given in the table. Now, the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide you have to know. Suppose in case of okay, let me see. Okay, in case of respiratory gases, partial pressure of O2 and CO2. Okay, the respiratory gases O2 and CO2. Now we will know the partial pressure of O2 and CO2 in case of atmospheric air. For O2, PO2, okay, the partial pressure of O2 in atmospheric air is 159, whereas the partial pressure of CO2 in atmospheric air is 0.3. See, it's very less. See, it's very high. Fine. Now, in case of alveoli, in alveoli, as O2 is more, that's why the partial pressure of O2 is more in alveoli. See, 104 in alveoli, the partial pressure of O2 is 104, and partial pressure of CO2 is 40, as oxygen content in alveoli is less. Because why oxygen content, carbon dioxide content in alveoli is less? Because you know that blood gets purified in lungs. So what happens mainly? Deoxygenated blood goes to lungs and it becomes oxygenated. Means as there is more oxygen content in lungs, mainly in alveoli, oxygen gets transferred to blood, okay, and carbon dioxide from blood gets transferred to alveoli. This is the exchange of gases taking place. That's why the oxygen content in alveoli is more, rather than the carbon dioxide. Okay, the content of carbon dioxide. Now, in case of blood that is deoxygenated, obviously in deoxygenated carbon dioxide content is more, so 45, and oxygen content is less, that's why 40. You know, deoxygenated blood means blood where oxygen content is less and carbon dioxide content is more. Now, in case of this happened now in case of deoxygenated blood. In case of oxygenated blood, obviously the content of oxygen is more, that's why 95, and content of carbon dioxide is less, that's why 40. Fine. Now, in case of tissues, content of oxygen is less and carbon dioxide content is more. Why? Because the oxygen, okay, there is an exchange of gases again from oxygen, from blood to tissues. What happens? The oxygen from blood gets transferred into tissues, and the carbon dioxide from tissues gets transferred into blood. Understanding? So obviously the carbon dioxide content in tissues is more. That's why it is getting transferred to blood, and the oxygen content in tissues is less. That's why there is a transfer of oxygen from blood to tissues. Okay, that's why the partial pressure of oxygen in tissues is 40, and in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in tissues is 45. Okay, so here we come to the end of the concept partial pressure of gases. Now the second thing. Okay, okay. First, let me ask from Shovik that Shovik, you are having any doubts in the concept partial pressure and exchange of gases? You just text me. I can't hear you. Clear? Everything is clear. Anything to repeat? You can say me. Any doubts? Any doubts? You can say me. Okay, because this concept of partial pressure is very important. Now, a gradient is present for CO2 in the opposite direction. Okay, let me see what is the continuation. Okay, here the data given in the table clearly indicates a concentration gradient of oxygen from alveoli to blood and blood to tissues. Okay, as I have said you, the content of oxygen in case of alveoli, in case of atmospheric air, oxygenated blood and tissues. Okay, this is only written here in this line. Now, similarly, a gradient is present for CO2 in the opposite direction, that is from tissues to blood and blood to alveoli. As I have said you, from tissues to blood, the carbon dioxide is coming from tissues to blood, and blood again it transfers the carbon dioxide to alveoli. Fine. Now, as the solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times higher than that of oxygen, means carbon dioxide can dissolve. It has the solubility ability more than oxygen. Okay, the amount of carbon dioxide that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane per unit difference in partial pressure is much higher compared to O2. Means carbon dioxide can exchange very easily with tissues, and not only with tissues, with your alveoli also. Whereas oxygen, it takes time to exchange, because see the diffusion ability, the you can say the dissolving ability of carbon dioxide is more than oxygen. Okay, it's clearly written here. Now the diffusion membrane is made up of three major layers. It's namely the thin squamous epithelium of alveoli, the endothelium layer of alveolar capillaries, and the basement membrane between them. Now I will say you to see this diagram. See this diagram. See here. This is alveoli. Fine. There is a basement substance here. Okay. This wall, this thing is the basement membrane, and the yellowish color fluid is the basement substance present there. Okay. And this is the blood capillary. This is a blood capillary where the RBCs are flowing. Okay. Now from here, what happens? From here, what you know, from here CO2 gets transferred. Okay, from here CO2 gets transferred to the alveoli, and from alveoli O2 gets transferred into the blood. Fine, this you know. Okay, here it's only written like that, that this alveoli contains the basement membrane, and the constituents of basement membrane that you have to know is three major layers: this thin squamous epithelium of alveoli, the endothelium, alveolar capillaries, and the basement substance in between them. Okay, as I've said you, the basement substance between the basement membrane. Now basement membrane consists of two layers that I have said you, the thin squamous epithelium, the endothelium layer. Fine. So the exchange of gases part is completed. Now again I am going back and I am saying, Shovik, any kinds of doubt you can say me. Any kinds of doubt. Anything? Anything to ask? Clear? Everything clear? Okay. You are writing no doubts, but everything clear, right? It should be clear. Fine. It should be clear. Everything. Okay. Very good. Again, let me go back. Okay. So next, our topic is transportation of gases. Very important. Now, in this part, we will just know a general thing. How much percent of oxygen is transported by your blood plasma, by hemoglobin, how much percentage of carbon dioxide is transported by plasma, hemoglobin, and in other forms, that we will know in general concept. Now, blood is the medium of transport of O2 and CO2. About 97% of O2 is transported by RBCs in the blood. Okay, very important. 97% of O2 is getting transported by RBCs in the blood. But which which reagent, which element contains this oxygen? You know, that's the hemoglobin, iron containing pigment known as hemoglobin contains oxygen. This hemoglobin is present mainly on the surface of RBCs, which contains oxygen from blood. Okay, via the blood, you can say RBCs obviously contains oxygen and it transports to the tissues. Now, 97% of oxygen is transported by RBCs in the blood. That is very important. And what happens to the remaining 3%? The remaining 3% of oxygen is carried in a dissolved state. See, in a dissolved state through the plasma. Okay, it's carried to a dissolved state through the plasma. Nearly now, this was a general idea how oxygen is carried. Now, about carbon dioxide. Nearly 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported by RBCs, whereas 70% is carried by as bicarbonate. Now, bicarbonate formula, you know, HCO3 minus. What's happening? Okay, HCO3 minus, you know, this is the formula of bicarbonate. Now, in form of bicarbonate, carbon dioxide is transported, and you have to see the percent. 70% means majority of carbon dioxide is transported in form of bicarbonate ions. Fine. And what about remaining 7%? The remaining 7% of CO2 is carried in a dissolved state through plasma. Fine. As I have said you, its dissolving ability is more than O2. So 3% of O2 is carried as by the plasma, whereas 7% of O2 CO2 is carried by blood plasma. Understanding? Okay, these distributions you have to know. Distributions of percentage: 20 to 25% of CO2 is transported by blood, 70% is transported via the bicarbonate ion, and remaining 7% is transported by blood plasma. 97% of O2 is transported 97% of O2 is transported by hemoglobin, which is present on the RBC surface, and remaining 3% is transported by the blood plasma. Fine. Now we will go to transportation of oxygen in detail. Okay, transportation of oxygen. Hemoglobin is the red colored ion. Here many things are written. Okay, I will say you in short and sweet kind of a manner, which will cover all these things. Now, you know, oxygen is transported by the hemoglobin. Now, oxygen gets bounded, or you can say it gets binded with the hemoglobin pigment, forming oxyhemoglobin. Forming oxyhemoglobin. Fine. Now, oxygen is binding with hemoglobin because what happens? The partial pressure of oxygen is, you can say the here it's written binding of oxygen with hemoglobin is primarily related to the partial pressure of O2. As I have said you, partial pressure of gases are very important in case of respiratory system, or you can say the transportation exchange of gases. Fine. So as I was saying, that oxygen gets binded with hemoglobin because of its partial pressure, because of its value of partial pressure. Now again, you repeat what is partial pressure? The pressure exerted by an individual gas on the container in a mix from the mixture of gases. Suppose there is a mixture of gases kept in a container. The value of pressure exerted by a individual gas on the container is known as partial pressure of that particular gas. Fine. So the transportation of oxygen is via the hemoglobin that I have said you. Just 97%. Okay, why it is binding with hemoglobin? Uh, because of its partial pressure. What's the name after binding with hemoglobin? What's the name of that compound? The name of that compound is oxyhemoglobin, and remaining 3% is transported via the blood plasma. Bus, done. The transportation of oxygen is done. Nothing more will come. But only one thing that you have to remember, that is, this is a curve. This curve is called oxygen dissociation curve. Now, this curve is very important. The definition is very important. The curve is called oxygen dissociation curve, as is highly useful in studying the effect of factors like PCO2, H plus concentration, etc. Fine, this you have to know. And here in the alveoli, where there is high PO2, low PCO2, as I have said you, the partial pressure of oxygen in alveoli is more than partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So as low there is low content of carbon dioxide in alveoli, there will be low content of H plus ion also, and there will be low temperature also because there are low carbon dioxide. Fine. The factors are all favorable for the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Now, the formation of oxyhemoglobin takes place in these kinds of you can say these kinds of factors, this kinds of situations where there is low temperature, there is no presence, there is low content of CO2, there is low content of H plus ions. Okay, in these kinds of situations, oxyhemoglobin gets formed. Now, whereas in case of tissues, there is low PO2, high PCO2, high H plus concentration, and high temperature also. So this conditions is favorable for the dissociation of oxygen from the oxyhemoglobin. Now, as blood carrying oxyhemoglobin reaching in front of tissues where there is more PCO2 in tissues, there is more temperature in tissues, there is more H plus ion concentration in tissues. Now, these kinds of factors, these kinds of situations are favorable for dissociating oxygen from hemoglobin. There was oxyhemoglobin, a compound which got dissociated and formed oxygen separated, and there are oxygen separated and hemoglobin separated. Now there is no elements bounding with hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is empty. There is no element getting bounded with hemoglobin now because oxyhemoglobin got dissociated. Why? Due to high concentration of H plus ion in tissues, high PCO2 in tissues, high temperature in tissues. Fine. So these things you have to know. This concept mainly I have underlined from here. See these things in alveoli from here you have to know. And what is the use of dissociation curve? You have to know that this is highly useful in studying the effect of factors like PCO2, H plus concentrations, etc. Fine. Now, again, I will say, go back and I will ask that any doubt, Shovik, any doubt in case of transportation of oxygen, any kinds of doubt you can say me now itself. Any doubt? Okay. Transport of oxygen and oxygen dissociation curve again. Very good. As I've said you, there are two forms of transportation of oxygen. First of all, you remember point wise. It will be very clear. You remember point wise. First of all, oxygen gets 97% of oxygen gets transported via uh, hemoglobin present on the surface of RBCs. Now, how it is getting transported via hemoglobin? First of all, oxygen gets binded with hemoglobin. Okay. For example, if you take the reaction, it is O2 plus Hb forming HbO2. That is oxyhemoglobin. What's the name of HbO2? It's the name of this compound is oxyhemoglobin. Okay. After bounding with hemoglobin, the compound name is oxyhemoglobin. So this compound, now why oxygen is getting binded with your hemoglobin? Due to its partial pressure. Due to the partial pressure of oxygen, it is getting binded. And in which form? What's the name of that compound? The name of that compound is oxyhemoglobin. Now in this form, it reaches in front of tissues. Okay, where there is more PCO2, as I've explained in the last page. Okay, more PCO2. As there is more PCO2, there is more concentration of H plus ions, and there is high temperature. As as there is high temperature, high H plus ion concentration, high PCO2, these kinds of factors are responsible for the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin. Means HbO2 will dissociate into O2 and Hb. Now Hb is hemoglobin. Now hemoglobin is fully empty and oxygen got dissociated. Now this oxygen will reach in the tissues, and the carbon dioxide from the tissues will come outside into the blood and will be binded with the hemoglobin. This now transportation of carbon dioxide we will read in next topic. Now this was the transportation of oxygen. As I've said you, oxygen, 97% of oxygen is getting transported via hemoglobin in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Why it is getting binded with hemoglobin? Due to partial pressure of oxygen, and remaining 3% is getting transported via the blood plasma. Fine. Now what is oxygen dissociation curve? This curve, now, a sigmoid curve. Okay, a sigmoid curve is obtained when percentage saturation of hemoglobin with O2 is plotted against the PO2. Now, this curve mainly indicates the binding rate of O2, mainly the binding rate of O2 with hemoglobin. Fine. When there are more O2, means hemoglobin, means when there are more O2 getting binded with hemoglobin, it's known as saturated. You can say saturated hemoglobin. Saturated hemoglobin means hemoglobin is fully packed with O2 molecules. Fine. This curve mainly indicates this binding of O2 with hemoglobin and how it is helpful in higher studies. With it is highly useful. Okay, what happened? Okay. It is highly useful in studying the effect of factors like PCO2, H plus concentration, etc. Fine, on binding of O2 with hemoglobin. Okay, it is helpful. How? It is useful in studying the effect of factors like PCO2, H plus concentrations, etc. on uh, binding of O2 with hemoglobin. As O2 gets bounded with hemoglobin, there will be change in PCO2, H plus concentration, temperature. So these kinds of things are indicated by the oxygen dissociation curve. Okay. Now, Shovik, any doubts? Anything to repeat? Again, I have to repeat. Semi. Anything? Any doubts? Understood? Everything clear? Everything you have to remember point wise. Okay, everything you have to remember point wise. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, let me move again to the page. Now, oxygen ka baat ho gaya. Done. Oxygen is done. Transportation of oxygen is done. Now, transportation of carbon dioxide. As I've said you, 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported via hemoglobin. Now, in which form is getting transported? In the form of carb amino hemoglobin. Carb amino hemoglobin. This is very important term that you have to know. Okay. carb amino hemoglobin, HbCO2. Okay, this compound's name is carb amino hemoglobin. When carbon dioxide gets bounded with hemoglobin. Now, why it is getting bounded with hemoglobin? Again, due to its partial pressure. Fine. Remaining 70% or more 70% of carbon dioxide gets transported in the form of bicarbonate ion, HCO3 minus ion. Okay, because this is very important because majority of carbon dioxide transports in the form of bicarbonate ion. Now, remaining 7% carbon dioxide is transported via the blood plasma. That is not into our consideration now. We will know how the carbon dioxide is transported in the form of carbamino hemoglobin and bicarbonate ion. Let me go to the next page. Okay. See now what happens. As I have said you, after dissociation of oxygen in front of tissues, now hemoglobin is empty. Carbon dioxide from the tissues comes to blood and gets bounded with hemoglobin as in the form of carb amino hemoglobin. Okay, this is how the carb amino hemoglobin is formed. Now, carbon dioxide is transported in the form of bicarbonate ions. Now, there you have to know a function of a specific enzyme known as carbonic anhydrase. Let me see it. Carbonic anhydrase. Now, what is the function of carbonic anhydrase? These enzymes facilitate the following reaction. Let me see what is the following reaction. CO2 plus H2O is H2CO3. H2CO3, again, it's reversible reactions and it's forming HCO3 minus plus H plus in the presence of carbonic anhydrase enzyme. Now, by these reactions, what we can understand is that carbonic anhydrase enzyme facilitates or it promotes the formation of bicarbonate ion by which 70% of carbon dioxide is getting transported. Fine. Now, a special, you can say a special thing, a certain thing you have to know, certain process you have to know. The process name is chloride shift. The process name is chloride shift. Now, what happens in case of chloride shift? You have to remember this very important. Now, you know, when started studying about blood in class 10, also, if you were having ICC students, circulatory system, when you were studying about blood, what were the components of blood? There was plasma also. Okay, there was plasma, there was water, etc. etc. First of all, we will know about plasma. Now, in plasma, there are many such ions. Okay, many such ions, many you can say many components of plasma is there. Water is one of the component. Okay, there is uh, chloride ion, there is potassium, sodium ion. Now, what is happening is that some bicarbonate ion moves into the plasma. Now, what happens? As bicarbonate ion is present in the blood, because carbon dioxide is transporting in form of bicarbonate ion by the blood. Okay, it's present in the blood only and it's flowing. Fine. Now, from this RBCs, okay, from RBCs, mainly in RBCs, bicarbonate ion is present. Now, from RBCs, bicarbonate ion gets transported to plasma, and chloride ion from plasma gets transported from plasma to RBC. Again, I am saying very important process known as chloride shift. The process itself is the name of the process itself is giving you an idea that yes, the chloride ion is shifting from somewhere to some place. From where to where this chloride ion is getting shifted? From plasma right? From plasma, it's getting shifted to RBCs. Now the bicarbonate ion that was present in RBCs, on the surface of RBCs, will get transferred from RBCs to plasma. This is the exchange of bicarbonate ion from RBCs to plasma and chloride ion from plasma to RBCs. This phenomena, this phenomenon is known as chloride shift. Now the other name of chloride shift, uh, okay, this is the other name of chloride shift is Hamburger's effect. Hamburger's effect. The खाने वाला burger का effect. Hamburger's effect. Okay, the phenomenon's name is chloride shift or Hamburger's effect. Mainly, the Hamburger was name of a scientist, so after which the name is kept. He found out first the process. Okay, so this was transportation of carbon dioxides. Again, I am saying 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide in the form. What happened? There is a problem out here. Okay, wait for a while. Okay. As I was saying, 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported by RBCs in the form of carb amino hemoglobin. 70% of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of bicarbonate ions, and remaining 7% is transported by dissolved by the blood plasma. Fine, by the blood plasma it is getting transported, and this is the transportation of carbon dioxide that you have to know, and also the major phenomenon that is chloride shift you have to know from this transportation of carbon dioxide. Now again I will go back, again I will ask Shovik any kinds of doubt. You can say me any doubts, any kinds of doubt, anything to repeat, you can say. Very good, no doubts, but be clear, okay, be clear, nothing to be feeling shy or anything. Any kinds of doubt, any questions in your mind, you can say me right now. No doubts. Again, I'm asking, no doubts. Fine, fine, very good, very good. Let me go back again. Now, regulation of respiration. In the regulation of respiration, you have to know the small thing. Nothing is uh, nothing much you have to know. A specialized center is present in the medulla region. Okay, here medulla region in the of the brain called as respiratory rhythm center is primarily responsible uh, for this regulation. Now there is a center in medulla, you know, I guess. Medulla in medulla there is a specialized center which controls this respiration rate, or you can say it regulates respiration. Fine, this is one form how respiration is regulated. Now there is another center in Pons region of the brain called as pneumatoxic center. Very important term, very important. Okay, pneumatoxic center. Questions are asked in NEET, mainly in NEET, also in school exams. A short questions is asked mainly of multiple choice questions. Okay, it is asked like this: that which center in brain is known as pneumatoxic center? Pons Okay, the answer is Pons Baroli. It comes in terms of match the following also. Fine. So neural signal from this center can reduce duration of inspiration and thereby after respiratory rate. Now, neural signal from these centers, obviously there are the electrical impulses coming, the signals coming. Now these signals can hamper the inspiration rate. Inspiration rate is hampered by the neural signal. These neural signals, as the inspiration rate is hampered, it will in turn hamper the respiration rate. Okay, all are interrelated. If the inspiration rate is hampered, obviously the respiration rate will be hampered. Fine, understanding? Okay, so this region you have to read, just this region. Okay, there are two centers. in medulla region, one, and second in pons varoli. The center present in pons varoli is known as pneumatoxic center. Fine. From these centers, neural signals can hamper the rate of inspiration, which will in turn hamper the rate of respiration. Okay, that means the neural signals from those centers will hamper the rate of inspiration, which will in turn hamper the rate of respiration. Okay, so this is the regulation of respiration. Again, I will go back. Again, I will say Shovik. Shovik, any kinds of doubt, anything you can ask me, anything. I'm waiting, Shovik. All clear. Very good. Very good. This regulation part is all clear. Very good. Now the last topic. The last topic of this chapter. Disorders of respiratory system, very important, from where questions are compulsory in school exams, both in NEET. Fine. So let me start. First is asthma, a common disease, common disorder. It is a difficulty in breathing wheeziness, uh, causing wheezing due to inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. Now it is the difficulty in breathing. Okay, it's the difficulty in breathing. What is the symptoms? The difficulty in breathing. Now, why difficulty in breathing? Due to inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles, left and right primary bronchi that I have explained you last day, and the terminal bronchioles. This bronchi and bronchioles just inflated. Okay, just becomes thicker. Okay, it inflates. Fine. Asthma done. Okay, done asthma. Now emphysema. This emphysema is very very important. This only comes. This emphysema only comes in exams. In kinds of different kinds of questions will come from this emphysema. Why? What is this emphysema? Why it is caused? Uh, from which, mainly from which thing it is caused? Okay, different types of questions will come. The emphysema is the chronic disorder in which alveolar walls are damaged, due to which respiratory surface is damaged. As I have said you, transportation of gases mainly depends. It also depends on the medium by which it is getting exchanged, or by which it is getting transported. Now, suppose in case of blood and alveoli, what is the medium of exchange of gases? The layers, the layer of, you can say, the layer of alveoli, the last layer of alveoli. Okay, the basement membrane of alveoli. Fine. If that gets damaged, how there will be exchange of gases? How there will be purification of blood? Fine, understood. So alveolar walls are getting damaged, due to which respiratory surface gets is decreased. Okay, as this wall of alveoli is getting damaged, obviously the respiratory area, or you can say the respiratory surface, is getting decreased. Okay, there is less amount of surface remaining by which we can exchange the gas, which we can transport the gas. Fine. So this is the major symptom. Okay, why it is caused? Why the emphysema is caused? Alveolar walls gets damaged. In turn, the respiratory surface gets decreased. Very important cause of emphysema. And this, the one major cause of this is cigarette smoking. This is the very important cause of emphysema. This is only asked in majority of the questions in different schools, in different competitive examinations, for example, NEET and different other entrance examinations. Okay, I have seen previous years questions, and I found from this area only the full line is just copied, and they ask questions like this: what is the major cause of emphysema? There are four options. You have to just take the correct option, which will be the cigarette smoking. Okay, cigarette smoking is the major cause of emphysema. Now this is done. Now the last page we will go. Last thing is occupational respiratory disorders. This is not much important. Just you have to know that in different kinds of you can say in different kinds of factories, okay, the laborers which work there, they face many such kinds of disorders. Suppose a labor, okay, labor working in a, you can say a labor working in a coal factory, okay, has the disorder named arthrosis, okay, or you can say it's written here, suppose, or you can write the spelling ARTR ARTHRCOSIS, arthrosis, ARTHRCOSIS. This is the disorder which happens in a laborer working in a coal factory. Next, a laborer which is working in a silica factory. Silicosis is the disorder which happens to that laborer. Fine. So these two examples you can keep in mind. Okay, for silica industry, it is silicosis. For coal industry, it is arthrocosis. Okay, these two disorders are the occupational respiratory disorders. Means for obviously for earning, you go and work in that kinds of industries. Now, after working in that kinds of industries, the disorders that you face are this: arthrocosis, silicosis, etc. Okay, so these are the occupational respiratory disease, and hence we come to the end of this chapter, learning the disorders of the respiratory system. Now again I will go back. Now Shovik, say me any doubt in case of respiratory disorders. Okay, before saying, I will just give you an idea of one disorder named as hypoxia. Hypoxia, HPYOXIA, hypoxia. This is deficiency of oxygen based on the causes the hypoxia is falling to. Now what happens, it is deficiency of oxygen in your body. Mainly hypoxia is the disease. Okay, it's the means when there is deficiency of oxygen in your body, hypoxia is caused. Okay, this is just the definition you note down. This is very important. Hypoxia, which is not present in NCRT book, but it is the external questions which comes in NEET also, in school exams also. Define hypoxia. What is hypoxia? It's the disorder mainly when there is deficiency of oxygen in our body. Fine. Now again, Shovik, any doubts from the topic disorders of respiratory system? Any kinds of doubts you can ask me. You can say me anything to repeat. Understood. Again, I am asking. Understood. Now I am asking overall the topic from whole chapter. Any doubt? Any kinds of doubt? From the previous day, what I have taught. From today, what I have taught. Any kinds of doubt? Any questions you can ask me. Semi Shovik. Okay, no doubts. Good. No doubts. Very good. Okay, then let me stop the sharing. Okay. So our chapter is completed. In 2 days, our chapter got completed. I am very satisfied. Now, Shovik, a question. Have I uh, completed each and every topic? Everything went into your head? Okay. Have I explained you properly? Just text me. Good. Very good. You have understood. It's most satisfactory thing to me. You have understood. Yes, very good. So we have completed the chapter. It was really enjoying to teach you, Shovik, this chapter. In 2 days, I have completed. It is very satisfactory to me. Also, in depth, we have went. Everything of NCRT book is covered from this chapter. Now, any questions from NCRT book is asked to you, you will be able to give the answer. Any questions? Because we have done each and everything from the NCRT book. Now, anything beyond NCRT book will not come. Yes, certain questions from internet you have to see, which are the important questions beyond NCRT book from this chapter. That you just go through once, it will be finished, ekdam completed. Okay. Now, at last, the time comes for test. Shovik, I will be assigning you a test, okay, on this chapter. It is not hard and fast rule for you again, as you have pressure of board examination, pre-boards. Just go through the questions, okay? You just text me. Fine? Okay, I will assign a test. I will give assignments also from the topic today, which I have taught. At then we will move on to the next chapter. Okay, so Shovik, when I will take the next class tomorrow, will it be okay? Tomorrow same time, yes, from 8 to 9. Will it be okay? Okay, then tomorrow we will start the next chapter of zoology, that is circulatory system. Again, the base, class 10 circulatory system is there. The same thing is there in class 11, just 2 3 points extra, bus. Just 2 3 points, 1 2 topics extra, bus. The chapter will be finished very soon. But again, as this is class 11, you have to go to depth and you have to understand many things. Okay, then tomorrow we will start a new chapter. Today I will give you the assignments, and already I have posted the study mats in my app. Uh, I have posted. I will assign you a assignment. I will assign you a test today, and we will move on to the next chapter tomorrow. Okay then. Okay. Bye, Shovik. Good night.